Daily Tech News Show is made possible by you listening right now. Hi, you. You're Philip Less, and you're Howard Yermish, and you're John Atwood, and you're that new patron, Al. Everybody welcome Al. Thanks, Al. On this episode of DTNS, OpenAI might be making a browser. Do we need that? Plus, Threads tries to stay competitive, and Robert Heron gives us the scoop on TVs and other home theater items ahead of your holiday shopping. This is the Daily Tech News for Friday, November 22nd, 2024. I'm in Los Angeles. I'm also Tom Merritt.
I'm also in Los Angeles. From Studio Animal House, I'm Sarah Layton.
I am not in Los Angeles. I'm in Cleveland. I'm drawing the top tech stories. My name's Len Peralta.
I'm where I'm at. I'm the show's producer, Roger Chang.
Ooh.
And joining us, also not in Los Angeles, home theater and TV calibration expert, Robert Heron. Welcome, Robert.
Hey, thank you so much.
What do you know about where Robert is, Tom?
That's true. He could be in Los Angeles. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I'm in the Bay Area, California.
Oh, I was about to say it was an undisclosed location, but then you disclosed it. So that's
Bay Area, you'll find him. Just walk down a street.
It's under all that water right now. Go take a look.
Online.
Yeah. All right, let's start with the quick hits.
Bloomberg's Mark Gurman says Apple is working on a more conversational Siri, similar to voice mode on ChatGPT. Internally, the project is reportedly called LLM Siri, since it takes advantage of a large language model. Gurman sources also tell him it should be ready to announce as soon as 2025, but might not launch for consumers until spring of 2026.
Such clever naming, LLM Siri. The UK Competition and Markets Authority released a report of the results of its investigation into Apple's mobile browser policies. The CMA provisionally found that it appears that Apple's restrictions on browsers hold back innovation, preventing developers from making faster loading web pages and impeding the development of progressive web apps. The report also claims that the revenue sharing agreement between Apple and Google, much discussed in the antitrust case here in the United States, reduces competition as well, and that both companies manipulate browser choice to their own advantage on their mutual platforms. The CMA recommends the findings be addressed after the Digital Markets Competition and Consumers Act takes effect in the UK in January.
Android Authority and Android Headlines both report that Google is ending work on a follow-up to the Pixel tablet because of profitability concerns. Google released the Pixel tablet last fall, and if you don't quite remember that, sort of seems to be the problem. Google will continue to support Android tablets from other manufacturers. The rumor also is that it wants Chrome OS to expand into the tablet market a bit as it becomes more Android-based.
So the profitability concern wasn't that it was making too much money, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah, I think you're guessing correctly.
Okay. Wired highlighted a website called IMG_0001 at waltzer.com/IMG_0001. It lets you view videos from a simpler time on the internet. The iPhone back in the early teens had a feature that let you post a video to YouTube directly from the camera app. You could take a little video and then say, post that right to YouTube. Those videos would always have the file name, IMG_ and then a number. Engineer Riley Waltz used YouTube's API to search for any files with that naming convention. That wasn't the title of the video, but through the API, you could see the names of the files, and then he pulls them randomly into this site where you can just see little slices of life from 2010.
Yesteryear. Wasn't it fun? Amazon increased its stake in AI company Anthropic, though it still remains a minority owner and doesn't have a board seat. Not yet, anyway. Anthropic will make Amazon Web Services, also known as AWS, the primary place that it trains its models like Claude. It will also work with Amazon's Annapurna Labs to develop its Tritanium accelerator chips for model training. For the record, Google is also a minority investor in Anthropic.
OpenAI wants to make its own browser, at least according to sources talking to The Information. Supposedly, it would integrate ChatGPT into the browsing experience somehow. It also has talked to Samsung about integrating OpenAI's tools on its devices, on the Samsung devices. What, I ask the panel, would make a browser from OpenAI different than just, Chrome or Firefox with
having a ChatGPT button?
Yeah, just put a chat. You can put a ChatGPT extension in right now. Robert, is there something a OpenAI could do with a browser that would make you say, yes, that's for me?
I think maybe if they could keep the number of nagging reminders that Gemini still exists and it's trying to integrate its way into my life. 10
Feels like
ways,
they could do that pretty easily. Yeah,
I would go that way.
Yeah.
Google's pretty aggressive.
You could do that with Edge,
AI.
though. Like you don't need an OpenAI browser for that.
I feel dirty using that browser.
Okay, Brave. You could use Brave.
You could use DuckDuckGo.
Isn't that Chromium?
What about Safari?
Yeah.
It's so many options.
Firefox. You can use Firefox.
Right. Firefox, yeah. I mean, but seriously, the idea of Chat GPT becoming something that people use, for like
Everything.
Exactly. It's like, all right, let's try Chat GPT for search, and then if we don't get anywhere, maybe we hop into Google search type thing. That was just, I mean, this is 1 year ago. Nobody had ever said these things unless you were actually working on the product itself. Now people really do use it that way. But
You can feel
making
the
a
pressure of the other
browser,
companies.
yeah, exactly. Having a browser that incorporates this in any more significant way than, again, sort of having the button over on the side to be like, now I would like to use AI. I don't really know what that looks like. I might be missing something, but it seems like it's sort of gimmicky.
It would have to be something about the way the browser works, right? Like obviously ChatGPT search would be integrated. Obviously you could do all the things you could do with an extension right now. But what if it was like handling navigation and like preloading pages for you that it knew you were likely to click on, or maybe doing translations of stuff, automatically?
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that.
Managing tabs for you and being able to tell what the tabs
Don't touch my
are.
tabs. OpenAI, do not touch my tabs
but
ever.
if you do it right, maybe you'll like,
Having
ooh,
access
actually,
to
I
your
like
history.
it.
I don't know. My
Having a what kind of
tab
history?
situation is very, very personal.
Having access to your history and then it being able to go say, hey, look, you remember when you looked at this page? Well, check this out. Or here's something you've already taken a look at. And its way of being interactive is quite crazy in terms of how good it can be.
It could do a little of the
voice
Microsoft
client.
Recall thing, but just for browsing, right?
Well, and I think the knock on not only ChatGPT but LLMs in general is that if you're using a chatbot, people say, yeah, but it's just not. It doesn't know me. It's going to recommend something that's not relevant. Well, if you train it to get to know you over time, that gets a lot better pretty quick.
Password management.
Password management.
Because LastPass and 1Password and all of those password managers are kind of clunky still. Sometimes they do things where you're like,
that's a generous way to put it.
right? So what if it could be like more intelligently understand what the page needs and be like, oh, would you like me to fill in your passwords from your password manager for you? I understand what these things are, and be able to save the passwords when you create a new password and not have to sit there and think like, oh, why does it think I want a new password? Oh, it's misinterpreting this form. Maybe that's something.
I agree with that. I think it has to do the browser basics really well. And then on top of that, just having something that is kind of aware of everything you've searched, everything you're interested in, keeping that page of history like ChatGPT currently does about everything you've ever typed in or interacted with it. To me, it's just invaluable. It is, and it would be nice to have that just built right into a good browser that delivers the privacy I'm looking for, the ability to control my data as much as possible, that sort of stuff.
And I can't imagine that browser could be free. I mean, you could make a dumbed down version of it sort of free, but it's sort of like if you use free ChatGPT. So, for example, Tom put a funny illustration on Threads. I think it was Threads.
Yeah, it was on
Bluesky.
Instagram, but I think it cross-posted. Yeah.
That was generated from ChatGPT. So I was like, I'll do it too. And I kept being like, okay, you're getting closer, but like make the cat all black. It's not a tuxedo cat. And eventually it was like, I've run out of things to do.
Yeah.
You should upgrade to ChatGPT Plus. And I'm like, not today. And then today, this morning, I was like, go back to our conversation yesterday, and let's pick this up. And they were like, ChatGPT was like, well, you didn't tell me to remember it, so I didn't.
Yeah. The browser will be
that with
free.
The whole just kind of the way you interact, we're all getting used to that.
Oh no, the browser's going to be free, but you're going to hit those kinds of limits. You're like, oh, we can't
it's like,
remember your history more than a day unless you subscribe. Yeah.
I don't need a browser like that. But maybe
that,
I'm
bro.
old
That's
school.
cool.
So I don't know.
It's going to be built on Chromium. Unless they like buy Mozilla or something, it's going to be built on Chromium too. So
Right.
yeah.
Well, moving into social network territory, Meta is doing a lot of revamping of thread search and trending features. We talked about some of that stuff yesterday. Now that it has Bluesky definitely on its tail in terms of engagement, both Threads and Bluesky are well behind X at this point, but gaining some significant traction. Threads users particularly can now search posts by date or account. The platform is testing a trending page with AI-generated summaries. We'll see how that goes. Threads also added custom feeds for more user control. This follows criticism of its default feed showing content that people thought was just irrelevant or not curated enough for them. Earlier this week, Meta also said it had adjusted its algorithm to prioritize posts from accounts that people already follow. So seeing more of the folks that you follow in your, For You area rather than just randos. Robert, I wanted to ask you, in this age that we're in now, where you've got X, you've got Threads, you've got Mastodon, you've got Bluesky, and there are certainly other social networks. LinkedIn is one now too. Where are you hanging out the most?
Well, for social media, I still use X because I have a sizable following there, but Bluesky has become like my new go-to. I basically copy all content to that or make sure I am participating in that forum. And Reddit, I have to say Reddit's probably my number one, and seeing Reddit results appear in Google searches is a little weird. But at the same point with all of these services, number one for me is I have to curate the content. The regular fire hose that you normally would get from any of these services, the default settings are going to give me content that I am not interested in, or it's just noise over substance. And I cannot handle that, or not handle it. It's just, it wastes my time. And
totally.
I am not a huge participant in Facebook. So I tend not to look at anything Meta does. So that's the only reason I'm not using Threads. It's just, I've got other places to put that stuff. And if there's a reason for me to be on Threads, then yeah. Same way as if there are businesses I interact with where I have to be on Facebook and I have to manage a page or something like that. That's the only reason I'm there. Otherwise, I've deleted everything from that platform and personally. And otherwise, it's just mostly business. I don't even use the marketplace there anymore if I can help it. Anyway,
oh man, I love Facebook.
I think for your own sanity, you have to curate what you're seeing nowadays.
Oh,
otherwise, you're going down rabbit holes of nonsense.
I have to. Years and years ago, I stopped reading the main feeds, chronological or For You. For the most part, I just look at replies and posts, and occasionally glance at the main screen for a hot second. And because of that, my For You recommendations on most platforms are pretty decent because
that's cool.
And I'm not trying to claim that I'm in some way different from anyone else. I think the algorithms reflect to us all of ourselves, and that's not good because it'll reflect a part of me that I don't really want to see, which is why I think most people hate the For Yous. But because I don't interact with them much, it doesn't know what to reflect to me. I think that helps. Lately, I've been really just using OpenVibe, which is an app on iOS that integrates Mastodon, Bluesky, Nostr, and Threads all together so that I can post to there and see posts from there all in one app. And then I'll use X because that's not an OpenVibe. So I'll look at X separately.
ICQ of social media.
Yeah. So OpenVibe's pretty cool. We also, it's worth pointing out, we started a Bluesky account for Daily Tech News Show as well. So at DTNS Show on Bluesky now as well. And I also wanted to give credit to Mia Sato, who wrote the Verge article. We showed it on screen, but just to say it out loud, Mia Sato is the one that's like, Meta's rolling out features which are a mirror of its competitor Bluesky, like pointing out, like, yeah, we're in a race now.
I am interested in Meta's VR gear. I will say that.
Same. I was talking to somebody the other day who was like, "Are you on Bluesky?" And I was like, "Yeah, I mean, I've had an account for a couple of years. I really haven't posted anything. I was kind of seeing how Threads was going, which actually I enjoy Threads. People have problems with every social network. People have many problems with. But I'm kind of like you, Tom. It used to be that I would wake up in the morning before I even made my coffee. Twitter.com. What do we got? What's going on in the world? I don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
And it's not because the news isn't still there. It's just different. And one of, somebody I was having a conversation with about Bluesky was like, it just seems like such a stripped down version of Twitter. And I was like, but that's what Twitter used to be. And I think that's the secret sauce, at least right now, is that it feels like a throwback to when social networks were a little bit less, I don't know,
populated,
run by brands, and like too much stuff on the the left and the right side, and trending topics, and it's like you're just following people, and you read what you follow.
I hate to say it, but Andrew Heaton said this on We're Not Wrong this week. He feels like all of these new platforms are just going to end up being like all the problems that we've had on other platforms. It's just because they're new, and the problem is the people.
Yeah.
And everybody thinks, like, well, I'm the exception. I don't do the toxic things, but then they go to another platform and start doing the toxic things. So he said it in a more colorful and persuasive way that I'm saying it right now. But I do think there's something to that of like, well, it's nice now because it's new, right? Like anything else. I'm not sure it will stay that way.
As networks scale, and they have to, right? They tend to, give you bloated features that you never asked for.
Yeah. By the way, I said OpenVibe on iOS as if it was only on iOS. I wanted to make sure that Android people knew, like, you can get it on Android as well. I've just only installed it on iOS. I'm going to install it on my Pixel Fold right now. I will fix that. Meanwhile, if you have a thought about something on the show but don't know our email address, I'm going to solve that for you as well. Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. Yay!
Yay!
The holiday season is upon us, and a lot of you are looking for great deals on home theater gear. We're getting all the sales. Singles Day was November 11th. We've got Black Friday coming up. But what do you buy? Robert is our home theater guru. Let's start with saving money. That's what most people do for a sale. They want to save some money. What are your picks for budget TV shoppers?
Well, if you're out there looking at everything, be aware that if perhaps the budget isn't happening right now and you can't afford a TV at this point and you're tempted by these sale prices, come say March or April of next year, you're going to see similar pricing on the TVs available today. So there is a second chance on all of this.
That's really good.
I think when you are looking at the lowest cost TVs, though, available today, you're going to find that they're, especially with LCDs, that it is going to be an LCD. And these TVs that use and feature an edge-lit backlighting system, where they use a single strip of LEDs along one edge, usually the bottom edge. They tend to have accelerated aging issues and failure rates. And the folks over at ratings.com, RTINGS.com, they have a wonderful article that goes over this in more detail. But the thing to be aware of is because you're concentrating all that heat along one particular edge, it bakes the LEDs and causes backlighting failures and layer failures quicker than you would say in a TV that features a full array of LEDs along the backlight. In terms of what's creating the light source that goes through the LCD screen.
How do you tell which ones are the full array?
It's easy with a thermal camera, but other than looking at like the specs, and hopefully if you know what you want, you investigate beforehand. And it goes kind of hand in hand with, if you do own one of these TVs, just give it a look once in a while and make sure its vents are not blocked or otherwise filled with dust bunnies and things like that. Keep it cool, so to speak.
Good stuff. All right. We're going to have some more recommendations, but I know people want stocking stuffers, especially because people love accessories. So let's go there next. What are some home theater cheapy items, fun items, helpful items?
Well, this one isn't exactly cheap, but something like it. And that is a company called Metrovac, who's been around for decades. And they have a DataVac electric duster. I've owned one of these for 12 years now. It's the same one. Has a 500-watt motor inside of that sucker, and it produces a stream of warm air that is filtered briefly. And it's great for dusting out computers and other hardware that you have to get rid of. We were just talking about keeping things cool. This is one way to do that. And
it's suction?
No, it's straight just air blowing.
Okay, so it's like an air
pulls in
can,
room air
but,
and
but it never ends.
I mean, for anybody who's not tried something like this before, it's I've got a new Mac Mini, for example. It seems to be cooling itself pretty well, but like, how would this attach?
PCs are amazing dust collectors. Anything with a fan in it, essentially. So once or twice a year, especially before the warmer days roll around, drag that computer outside and use a device like that and open it up and blow out all the fans and all the nooks and crannies, and you're just going to see a plume of dust come flying out of it. And the beauty of a device like that in particular is the fact that, one, it's using relatively room temperature air. It's not freezing compressed gas coming out of a relatively expensive can. It's also not flammable, unlike those cans of spray dusters. So if you point this into something like a running projector with its hot lamp module, you're not going to see a flame shoot out the other side with it.
Unless you want to, yeah.
I would say, though, for indoor use, though, you would want to turn to something a little more standard, like your vacuum attachment, where you're pulling it in and not just blowing dust all over the room.
Gotcha. How big is this Metrovac thing? Is it handheld?
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Yeah.
It's about the size of an oversized Coke can.
Okay.
It looks like a handheld vacuum just blowing out instead of the alternative.
And they have a
starting around $120.
Model.
So this is a nice stocking stuffer.
Totally.
But for the right person, it's a good stocking stuffer.
Totally. And like I said, I think it's bulletproof. It will never wear out per se. So you have that. And the other thing, too, for anyone at home who has a home theater setup, we all deal with HDMI cables. And one of the things to keep in mind is you should always have a spare on hand. And any HDMI cable that's, say, less than 2 meters or about 6 feet long or shorter, doesn't matter what the brand is, doesn't matter what the price point is, they all generally support any format in use today. That shorter length keeps the data flowing swiftly, regardless of what the formats are or the bandwidth being used by the particular video signal. When you get into longer distances, though, or if you want to just guarantee that something's going to work with 4K 120 and HDR coming out of your latest game console, you want something that's definitely certified. And one of the cables I use regularly is an 8K 60 compatible HDMI cable from Cable Matters, and this sucker is rated, like I said, 8K60, 4K 120, supports all the formats. You can get it in a variety of lengths. The one I use is about 50 feet long, and it never fails. It is a directional cable. Keep that in mind. One end is going to be labeled source, and the other is going to be labeled the display device.
Because it's doing some internal processing. It's not just a dumb wire, huh?
Totally. It is converting some of that information into light at each end. And there are, like I said, there are a variety of lengths you can get with that too, and even in-wall rated designs. But if you need a longer cable and you're pushing bandwidth that needs it, that's where you want to pay more attention to the ratings on the cable.
And you'll pay a little more. It's $120 or so. Yeah.
Totally. And you can get stuff that's probably a little cheaper from someone like monoprice.com. They also sell similar products and with great pricing as well. I just happen to own that one, and it works fantastic. And I've had it for years at this point.
You can also stuff a stocking with batteries. In fact, my parents used to do that for Christmas, not in any other way. What are some rechargeable battery ideas?
Totally. I recently ran into an issue where I had a pack of brand new 9 volts, and I don't use them that often, but when I do, it's nice to have a brand new pack that actually still works. And apparently I left them too long and they were all dead in the bag. So I just went online and I found a good, well-rated brand. This is called EBL's 4-bay 9-volt lithium-ion batteries in a 9-volt format like that. It comes in a 4-pack. It will last me probably the rest of my life for the things I'm using it for. It comes with its own charger, so to speak. But for my AA needs, I'm a big fan of Panasonic's in-a-loop batteries.
100%.
They are just absolutely fantastic. And I use those in everything from my remote controls to my game controllers to anything that requires a AA. Oh, we have a doorbell that I use adapters with to make it a C-style battery using that AA.
Oh, that's smart. Yeah. Eneloops are great. We have other rechargeable batteries, and they always need to be recharged faster. Whenever I realize, oh, this is an Eneloop, I'm like, I forgot there were batteries in that thing because the Eneloops last so long. They're really good.
And I have
Speaking
go ahead, I'm sorry.
of charging batteries, this is just something I found on Amazon, Energizer, which does AA or AAA. You can only do 4 at a time, but because I use it for my my MetaQuest,
okay.
where
Yeah,
you know, because you got to put batteries in the
controllers.
Exactly. It's a whole thing. You need to have batteries on hand, and to buy them is just insane. You have to have rechargeable batteries. So, big fan of these sorts of things.
Find they also leak less compared to just your alkaline batteries, especially in devices that you may forget to remove the batteries from when not in use. There's nothing worse than having a leaking battery into an expensive remote or another electronic device, and it ruins it. It just straight up ruins it. So when it comes to battery chargers, I'm one of those weirdos who also uses like 18650 lithium-ion batteries for flashlights and things like that, as well as nickel metal hydride, like your Eneloop batteries and things like that. And I found this charger I picked up a few years back, but it's still made today and it's still just as good. It's the XTAR VC4. This thing is just kind of plug and play. You just put whatever battery in there, it'll figure out what the chemistry is. It will charge it appropriately to the proper voltages. There's not a lot of thought. It's compatible with a huge variety of sizes of different cell types. And the only thing it doesn't work with were the 9 volts I just mentioned. But that comes with its own charger anyway. But anyway, that's a wonderful charger, especially if you use different cell chemistries and different battery sizes. It just kind of works with everything. Which
Fantastic.
Is great. Yeah.
Well, before we get out of here, let's give a big thanks to Len Peralta, who has been illustrating today's show. Len, what are you drawing for us today?
You know, I am a big fan of whenever Robert comes on the show. And, you know, you get these big televisions, you get these projectors, you get all this stuff. And what are you going to watch on it? Well, you're going to watch the DTNS Holiday Home Theater Buying Guide, which hopefully there it is, featuring
so cute.
featuring Robert. This
you make it seem like Robert can't hold all the stuff. He clearly can't.
I was going to say he looks incredibly strong. Look how much stuff he's carrying. That's amazing.
Well, there's a lot of stuff. He looks a little bit distressed, but happy. Right? He's going to be delivering all this stuff.
I appreciate the slim waistline.
Oh, you're very. You're welcome. No, you know, if you are interested in this image, you can get it right now at my Patreon, patreon.com/Len. Back me at the DTNS level. You'll get it immediately, or go to my online store. You can pick it up the old-fashioned way. Just a little reminder: I am drawing custom-drawn holiday cards, and they may be going on sale soon. That's what an elf told me. So keep that in mind for your holiday purchases as well.
Fantastic. Robert, thank you for joining us as well. If folks want to follow and get more of your kind of recommendations, where should they go?
You can look me up at heronfidelity.com or robertheron.com. You can get all my content that way and find links to where I either do writing or research or just some of the content I generate. In addition to, if you're ever in the Bay Area or worldwide and willing to pay for travel, I would be happy to take a look at your home theater gear and make it look perfect.
Fantastic. Hire him up. Heronfidelity.com.
It is a busy season.
Is it? Oh, that's good.
Yes.
I'm glad to hear that.
Oh, my goodness.
We have a top 5. We mention it every Friday. And this week's top 5 is the top 5 web stores where you can buy delicious stuff for the holidays. Food stuff, treats, not even just treats, full meals. You can catch that at Daily Tech News Show on TikTok, DTNS Picks on Instagram, and of course, youtube.com/Daily Tech News Show. If you are like, hold on, I want to hear more recommendations for Robert, well, stick around for the extended show Good Day Internet. It's Friday. We got a couple more recommendations to get to from Robert, and Robert is going to talk home theater questions with the chat room a little bit, and then we have a special quiz. It's all coming. Stick around.
You can catch our show live Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern. That is 2100 UTC, and you can find out more at dailytechnewsshow.com/live. Hope you all have a wonderful weekend. We're back on Monday with Nika Monford, plus Andrew Main telling us whether AI is about to hit the wall.
This week's episodes of Daily Tech News Show were created by the following people. Host, producer, and writer Tom Merritt. Host, producer, and writer Sarah Lane. Executive producer and booker Roger Chang. Producer, writer, and co-host Rob Dunwood. Video producer Joe Kuntz. Producer at large Anthony Lemos. Spanish language host, writer, and producer Dan Campos. Science correspondent Dr. Nikki Ackermans. Social media producer and moderator Zoe Detterding. Our mods, Beatmaster, W. Scottis1, BioCow, Captain Kipper, Steve Guadarrama, Paul Reese, Matthew J. Stevens, a.k.a. Gadget Virtuoso, and J.D. Galloway. Mod and video hosting by Dan Christensen. Music and art provided by Martin Bell, Dan Luters, Mustafa A., Acast, and Len Peralta. Live art performed by Len Peralta. Acast ad support from Tatiana Matias. Patreon support from Tom McNeil. Contributors for this week's shows include Scott Johnson and Justin Robert Young, and our guests this week were Tricia Hirschberger, Brett Rounseville, and Robert Heron. And thanks to all the patrons who make the show possible.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.